Yeah, that was a clap there. First off, our Astros just tied the series up, so we're recording on a good note tonight. And two, sometimes, this is news, but we're going to talk about it early in the show. And we talked about this last week after seeing Black Adam, and Henry Cavill came back as Superman, and he made it official this week. And to me, this is a really great news. He released a statement how he's excited to be back, and they're working on the script for the next Superman film. And this kind of might segue a bit into download this, but I rewatched Man of Steel this week, and I just found myself kind of smiling, being really happy that he's coming back, because I will always in my heart love Christopher Reeve, but Henry really does a hell of a fucking job with the role. Like, Man of Steel, I think, doesn't get enough credit. I think the movie is solid as hell. It's action packed, and so I'm super excited that he's back. And just him making it official this week after seeing Black Adam. And I also was wrong. They didn't CGI the suit. He did pick out the suit he wanted to wear, but I still think they did some CGI enhancement on that scene probably, because the suit just looked kind of like off to me. But
like the S was different or something.
Yeah, something just felt off when he appeared on the screen, like it looked CGI. And maybe it was because him and The Rock did not film the scene together. Maybe it's the way they spliced it in and all that, and made it felt a little thrown off. But it is what it is. But it's just good to have him back. And if you haven't seen the Zack Snyder's Justice League cut, man, watch it too, man. Henry's just so good in the role, and I'm so glad we're going to get to see more. I'm very excited about that. But this is a Rebel Radio podcast. This is Mark.
This is Matt.
And so how are you doing, Matt? Man, you and I, we kicked off our vacation. We got off work yesterday. We're both off this week. So I hopefully can get a lot of rest and get some things watched this week, and movies. And just, that's my plan, is just kind of hang out. Usually I take vacations. I take vacations in the summer, and, I'm with the kids. And don't get me wrong, I love that. I love being with the kids and doing stuff with them. But I always have that one vacation a year that I take where they're in school. So I get dad time, and I just plan on just basically being a lazy fucking bum this week.
Yeah, man. Then the vacation goes it feels like it lasts a whole lot longer when you don't have anything to do. And, the day just kind of lingers on. I feel like you get more out of your vacation week whenever you're just kind of lax and just kind of doing whatever. And it's, it's fun. It's fun doing nothing because you need days or, multiple days like that just to, help you just rewind and relax.
Mental health, I guess, as they say nowadays.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, that's good. I'm glad I'm off and can just kind of hang out. And, having moved to the new place, I'm so busy between work and kids baseball or whatever. It's like I haven't had time to sit down and kind of soak in the new place, if that makes sense. I mean, I've had a few moments here and there, but so yeah, it'll be cool. It'll be good. It'll be nice. And but yeah, I'm doing well too. Other than a little bit of this Texas weather, when it starts getting cool in the mornings, warm in the afternoon, it messes with my allergies some. So I might be a little.
It's like pick one
today.
You gotta be hot or cold.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I could live in this all the fucking time. Absolutely. 50 in the morning, 70 in the afternoon, San Diego weather. I could live in that every day. But when you're not living it every day and it comes, it really fucks with your sinuses. You're just like,
yeah,
like, stop that. Yeah, man, it's Halloween weekend. It's the end of October, Halloween Horrors Month for us, a shortened version this year. But we hope you enjoyed the previous two movies that we did, and we're going to talk what's considered a classic tonight. Maybe not by my standards, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But before we do that, download this, man, where we tell people we watched, streamed, checked out this week, and I didn't watch a whole lot, so I know I went first last week, but fuck you, I'm going first again. And Matt's like, God dang, man, that's just me.
All right.
I know I said I rewatched Man of Steel, and I did. And like I said, I really enjoyed it. And I also sat down and I made my 13-year-old watch Planes, Trains, and Automobiles with me. And
there we go.
He was like, he tried to get out of it. I'm like, dude, just sit down and watch this. It's only an hour and a half. You'll enjoy it. And he did enjoy it. And I told him, see, man, that Michael right there, that's life, man. Be more like Del Griffin. Just go with the flow every day and enjoy life to the fullest, because you never know what it will hold from day to day. And he's old enough and smart enough to get the message from the movie and to enjoy it. And And so I was proud of him for sitting through it. It's one of my favorite movies. I know there's this long running joke on the show that Mark doesn't like comedy, but I do like that movie quite a bit. It's one of my favorites. And so,
it's a classic, man. Classic.
Yeah. Other than that, I didn't watch much this week. I did watch Tales of the Jedi, though, the new animated shorts on Disney Plus from Star Wars. And man, this is good. Like, definitely watch it. It's Dave Filoni doing his thing. I mean, it's really well done. It's these little short stories that fit seamlessly into the prequels and give us some backstory on Dooku and Ahsoka, and it's really well done. I highly recommend it. I'm sorry, man. Like, I didn't get another episode of Andor this week, but the more I find an Andor kind of boring. And I love fucking Star Wars, man. It's having me a hard time getting into that show. And then I go watch Tales of the Jedi, and I'm like
Star Wars.
Yeah, I go watch Tales of the Jedi. I'm like, this is why I like Star Wars. This is Star Wars. This is fucking great. And I wish Andor would bring that. And don't get me wrong, I'm gonna watch Andor. It's Star Wars. I'll watch it. I'm gonna finish it. But it's just taking me a bit to really get into it, And I'm hoping for the best, and I'm gonna keep watching it and see what happens. And I did finally get around to watching the 4th or 5th episode, whatever I'm on Lord Rings of Power. So I did watch that too. Not much to say about it other than, I'm liking the show, and a few more episodes to go to finish that. I think it's only 8 episodes. So maybe I only have like 3 left. So I did watch that. That's about all I watched this week, man. I've been too busy watching baseball and playoffs and stuff,
Yeah. I decided to, I hopped on the holiday movie train, I guess, a little bit early, and I had the kids watch Jingle All the Way because, why not? You got to watch, cheesy Christmas
That's my
movies.
cookie.
That's right. And it's Sinbad and the great Bill, Bill, his wife shot him because he was,
Oh, Phil Hartman.
Guy was on this.
Yeah,
Phil Hartman.
Yes.
Yeah. Just, man, sad that he had to go that way. But it's such a cheesy good movie. I mean, Jake Lloyd, being the cute Jake Lloyd that we remember, doing his thing, and then Arnold, you're my number one customer. You're my number one. And then Sinbad just, being horrible ass Sinbad. Yeah, good stuff. So kids watched that. They had a fun time. And went ahead and decided to, just keep watching Halloween movies because why not? And I watched Halloween 2. I was like, I remember watching Halloween 2. Thought it was an okay sequel. It is what it is. Halloween 3, not as good, of course, as, it doesn't even have Michael Myers in it. You've got, it's a TV commercial that prompts a madman, and there's just a series of killings involving a father and his daughter. The guy goes into his car, lights himself on fire. Some weird stuff, some creepy stuff. The daughter's like possessed or something. She's like a robot or something. Like she gets dismembered and she's still walking around. So there's some creepy stuff in there, but and then we move on to, of course, Michael Myers, the Halloween 4, 5, and 6, where they kind of established why Michael Myers, became, is how he is, and those movies they kind of just explain that he's cursed, but they all got further and further away, of course, from the movie that we're about to talk about. But yeah, had to watch most of the franchise. I didn't get to watch Resurrection, Halloween Resurrection, where Busta Rhymes takes on Michael Myers. Because I think I can live without it. Watching that again.
That became kind of a 90s cliche that people don't always talk about. Like, let's put popular black actors or rappers into these horror movies and have them say some funny stuff, and then they get killed. Which is actually true.
Yeah.
A lot of them showed up in those movies. And then,
Ghosts of Mars, I think, had Ice Cube in there.
Yeah, I think so. It's like, There was some bad horror in the 90s, you know.
Tons. I mean, even the iconic stuff can be kind of, take it or leave it.
Yeah, not always good stuff. Yeah. I wondered back when the producers of those like Halloween 2 and 3 were thinking like, I guess they were trying to turn it into like an almost an anthology type franchise with different stories, and they realized that didn't work. So let's go back to Michael Myers, you know?
Yeah. I mean, one of the guys that helped John Carpenter on set actually directed Halloween 3, and I wonder if he was just kind of trying to do his own thing, because I know he had just some small disagreements with John Carpenter. We'll get into that whenever we talk about the film, but yeah, they just got further away from what John did, and the Rob Zombie films, same thing, just further away. It didn't really, in my opinion, depict Michael like how he needed to be portrayed.
I actually believe this, I mean, you might find it surprising because I don't normally watch these movies a lot, but I did see the first Rob Zombie one, and it was only because I was married at the time and she wanted to watch it, and my memories of watching the Rob Zombie one was just, it wasn't very good. It just was like, I remember plot devices not making any sense at all. Things just sort of happen in the movie. And I'm like, I remember thinking like, did anyone edit this movie and pay attention to the plot that was going on? I just remember thinking that when I was watching it. And,
yeah. I mean, I think the best thing about that movie, and maybe the only good thing about that movie, is that, General Zod really does a good job of trying to, characterize what Donald Pleasant was doing, in the 70s, 80s, and
Terrence Stamp was in. That's right, he was in it.
Yeah, yep. I think he did a good job, and that's probably the only good thing about the movies.
So weird that he's in that movie, because here's a guy like Terrence Stamp complained about being in the Phantom Menace and George Lucas's wooden dialogue, but then you go and you make Halloween with Rob Zombie. That's weird.
Yeah.
It's like,
at least you're part of like this, legendary type of film.
Franchise.
I mean, yeah.
That's bizarre.
Like an immortalized franchise.
I forgot Stamp was in that until you said that, and that is weird, because I know it came out several years after Phantom Menace, because that Rob Zombie ones were like, what, 2008, 2009, around there. Yeah.
Yeah, just about. It just, just forgettable characters. And Carpenter, when they asked Carpenter about it, he felt like that Michael should be more of just a force, and they made him like this huge, just big dude, and he wasn't a Jason type or a Hatchet type. If you watch those slashers, he was just a force of nature as a man. But I guess that's a good segue into the movie. Yeah, no, that's about it.
Let's get into today's film, man. A movie that, considering we started Halloween Horrors about 4 or 5 years ago, I don't remember the first year, but that we haven't done a movie from the namesake of this holiday, and we are, of course, talking 1978's original Halloween from John Carpenter. Friend of the show and frequent guest. I guess frequent. Yeah, she's been on the show 2 or 3 times. Winter. She loves this franchise, and I hope that she's giddy with joy that we're covering this movie. Now, what I don't hope is that she gets mad whenever there's things I say about this movie, because I'm not a fan of this film, not very much at all. But that being said, there are things that I can appreciate about that I'll talk about. But essentially, this movie, I guess I'll summarize it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Since you know this movie better than I do, but I want to give it a shot. So essentially, Michael Myers is a young boy who kills his sister, and he's put into a penitentiary and doesn't speak for 30 years or whatever it is. So he's obviously got problems. Donald Pleasance plays he's just like a psychiatrist, right? Yeah, who
yes, sir.
is on Michael's case, and he believes that Michael is the embodiment of evil. And when he goes to see Michael at the penitentiary, Michael has escaped, and he makes his way back to the small town in Illinois to basically continue his murder spree. Well, not really a murder spree, because he hadn't had one yet, to make his first murder spree by stalking young girls very creepily in this small town. And Laurie is played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who finds a way to stop him at the end of the movie, as all horror movies do end, where the bad guy usually dies, to be resurrected by some evil force in another movie. But that's a whole other story.
Yeah.
But that's essentially the plot of this film. It's considered to be like the grandfather of slasher films in a lot of ways, because no movie had ever been done like this before. John Carpenter scores the film himself. In fact, when he first showed it to a test audience, not to test audiences, but to the powers that be that financed the movie, he had no music in it yet. And the powers that be said, "Well, this isn't scary." He's like, "Well, it's not finished yet," And then when he showed it to him again with the music added to it, they were like, "Oh, we get it now,"
Yeah,
because it is an iconic score. I think it's a little overused in the movie. That's one of my problems with it. It's like, okay, we get it, and it's like used and used and used. This movie, for being 1978, for being a slasher film, isn't overly violent. It's got a couple of violent scenes, but it's all done in the dark. There's not a whole lot of blood. So it's very tame by today's standards. Now, I haven't seen the new rebooted Halloween, but I would imagine it's probably a little more gory than the 1978 version, because that's just how movies are made nowadays. So those things I said, the first time I ever watched this movie was just a couple years ago. I watched it, and this is only the second time I watched it this week. And I'm usually pretty good at putting myself into the time frame in which this movie came out, like when we did Bullet last month, or other older films, or Night of the Living Dead last week. And I can accept the time frame these are made, and I can accept that with Halloween. I get it; it's 1978, and it's a different time. Movies were made differently, but and I can appreciate Halloween for what it did, bringing future slashers into, like Freddy, and Jason and Leatherface. Well, Leatherface actually came out before this, but it was such an independent film. Leatherface didn't really find an audience till VHS kind of hit. That's when it kind of found more its audience, and playing in small cinemas and things. Halloween was the first movie that actually was a big slasher hit at the box office. It only cost what,
$300,000.
Yeah, 300,000. I remember reading it was like 300,000,
and it made 47 million.
47 million. So it did very well at the box office. And so Halloween is responsible for being the movie that slasher films came from. And people also forget too, going back a little bit to Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which is considered a cult classic now. Texas Chainsaw Massacre was not a hit at all when it came out. Critics didn't like the movie at all. It was panned by critics. Audiences generally didn't like it. It kind of found an audience with Generation X later on. So people forget that with Texas Chainsaw. It's a little bit different way it got
popular. And Halloween was slow at first, but when Roger Ebert said that this was kin to Psycho, and if it was just like Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho, people started flocking to theaters once you had that notoriety.
Isn't that crazy, man? Like, people got their news and stuff, man, from television back then. You didn't have the internet like now.
And papers.
Like now, Black Adam comes out on last Thursday night, right? Within hours, you have Rotten Tomato reviews and internet reviews and Twitter and all this stuff that just gives you all this fucking overflow of information right away that gets in your brain and makes you sometimes decide whether you want to see a movie or not. But back then, you had to wait till Friday or Saturday night and watch Roger Ebert and Gene Siskel on TV and see how they reviewed movies, or till the magazine or newspaper review came out the following Monday or next week. And it blows my mind, man. And I grew up in that era. I remember having to read reviews in the newspaper and things like that of movies. And it's cool that happened. I mean, that's how a lot of these movies, Star Wars did that, Jaws did that. It was all word of mouth, man. They got people to go to the theaters, and that's freaking awesome. And our kids will never know what that's like, and it's crazy to think that.
That's just like reserving your seats online. They'll never know the struggle of having to show up like an hour early so you could sit together.
Which, I'll be honest, I don't mind having my seats reserved, but it was cool, man, standing in line. I think the last movie, because you were with me, I think the last movie I really remember standing in line for was The Dark Knight. And we were standing in line. We were talking to people. We were all excited, and I don't think I've stood in line for a movie since The Dark Knight that I can remember. Because even by the time all the Avengers movies started hitting, you had reserved seats and all that. And that was just, 12, 13 years ago. It's not that long ago, you know.
It's crazy, man.
But Halloween, you know, so I can appreciate what Carpenter did. I appreciate one thing, as I talked about with Night of the Living Dead. I appreciate the atmosphere of the film, the building that he does to the climax at the end, where Michael goes in the house and tries to kill all the girls and everything, and they fight back against him. So I appreciate all that. I really do. What I don't like about this film is I find it, for an hour and 35-minute film, it's extremely like slow paced. I know what Carpenter's trying to do. He didn't want you to have any relationship with Michael. He wanted you to be disconnected from him because the embodiment of evil. But I can't help but think Myers comes across really creepy with the sound effects that he uses, and not creepy in like a slasher way. It almost feels, maybe if I had watched this in 78 or earlier than I did 2 years ago, maybe I would have. But now it feels almost pedophiliac like. It's like he's really kind of creepy. He's like, look at these young girls, and he's staring, and they got this breathing going on. I'm like,
I think he's just creepy because he's wearing a Captain Kirk mask.
Yeah, a Captain Kirk mask and a jumpsuit. It's really just kind of like, I don't know. I find it kind of like gross and I don't know. I do like how he uses the cameras from Michael's viewing point to kind of give you a sense of what he's seeing.
It was a recent generation camera technique called standstill shooting, and it was only used in one other film before this. It was some throwaway film. But it allowed to get those angles. It allowed to shoot the movie the way that we see it, you know, suspenseful, those angles down the hallway. So it was a relatively new technique with certain stands where you reduce the shaky cam big time.
I do like the fact that the original script apparently took place over like 3 or 4 days, and they came in the rewrites and they tightened it. It all take place in one day. And I think that was a smart move, because it gives the movie a sense of intensity to make it all in one day instead of spreading it out. I think it's just the pacing of this film. I think it's just kind of not that exciting. And when you get to the climax at the end, there's like 2 kills, and then they knock him over the thing and they kill him, and then she looks down and he disappeared, and I'm like, oh, that's it. You know, it's like, I guess maybe I wanted more from it, maybe. I don't know. Why? Like, I don't hate this film, but I don't like it a lot. It's like, it's okay. You know, I'm glad I watched it because it's a classic. I don't feel like this is a franchise that ever needed all these 25 sequels it has or whatever. It feels like, okay, it could have been one and done. And I think that maybe that ruins it in some ways by overdoing it, where you keep bringing him back and bringing him back and bringing it back. But that's every slasher franchise, I guess, too. They all did it. That was a big thing in the 80s. Let's bring this guy back for one more round. Or how are we going to resurrect him? I don't know. Say some demon did it. It's just like, and
I like how in Scream they parody that, and they're like, well, why is he killing? Well, it's the millennium. And they're just like, you know, he's like, because they're just doing hypotheticals. Well, why would he kill? Because it's Thursday, you know, and they're just coming up with different reasons, because that's what these horror movies are about. You know, it's all about these random reasons.
Audiences, and no offense to anyone from the 80s, but audiences are smarter now. You know, back then you could pull that off. You know, you could be like, oh, well, you know, it made $47 million. We'll sell some tickets just by naming it Halloween 2 or Halloween 4, The Return of Michael Myers. People will go see it, you know, and then they would go see it, and then they just bought into it. Like, they didn't really care if the plot was stupid, I guess. You know, they were just like, whatever, you know. And maybe that's part of it. Just different times. You're a big fan of this franchise, man. Why? I'm curious, what draws someone to Michael Myers and makes, because to me, if I'm going to watch a slasher, give me Freddy Krueger all day over this guy. This guy is a creepoid, pervert, kind of boring, you know.
Well, I think he's creepy. He's eerie, and you know, just his theme. He may have the best theme out of all the slasher villains, but I do agree with you. Nightmare on Elm Street. It's probably the best horror franchise out of them all. This is probably out of like the big 5. I guess I'll call it the big 5 slashers for me: Jason, Freddy, Michael Myers, Leatherface, and Ghostface. I'd probably say he's second to last. He's probably in number 4. And that may seem, odd, but it's like, look at where this franchise went. The only franchise to me that's done worse is Texas Chainsaw Massacre. The first one, and they're very similar. The first one's great. The second one, maybe there's some bright spots that you like, but it's kind of like, yeah, and then it just goes off the rails. And they've tried to correct, and maybe you've got a couple films that, and this is, I'm saying before the 2018 reboot, you've got maybe couple films that maybe gave you some information you liked. Maybe you like that. Oh, they're explaining why he's evil. He's got this curse where he has to kill every member of his family. But it's just kind of off the rails versus what it was supposed to do at first. This movie, for me, it was contraband. My parents, we're watching this movie. You can't be in the room. So I had to go to my room. I waited until they were asleep, and then I played it. All right. It was like, I was little, it was like one of the first pair of boobs I saw, I was like, whoa, tits. So there's that aspect to me, it was, your heart, you got all this adrenaline going. You're like, oh, I'm not supposed to be watching this, but I'm watching it. And, it's creepy. It's, you've got all this hype and man, just the job that Carpenter was able to do with a small budget. Basically he had made this movie called Precinct 13, which multiple actors from that movie star in this film. And he only had enough money to get Pleasant. He did want Dennis Quaid also, but Quaid was busy. He was gonna, do it, but instead of Pleasance wasn't even the first pick. First you had the great Peter Cushing, but Cushing's agent was like, no,
Cushing, did he even talk to John Johnson at one point for a role or something?
I don't know about that, Johnson, but he wanted Chris Lee. He wanted the great Christopher Lee, and Christopher Lee turned it down. He said it was his biggest regret because Pleasance was such, a fan favorite among the franchise. He's the best part of every movie, that you go through down this franchise. Obviously, excluding the third film because he's in 1, 2, 4, 5, and 6.
Yep, Pleasance, man. You want to watch? Have you ever seen The Great Escape? Man, Pleasance in that. He's so good in it.
Yeah, that's a good one. With Steve McQueen. But you had that, and then he didn't even want Jamie Lee Curtis. He wanted the daughter from Lassie, Lassie series. Yeah. But then, after Curtis, was cast, he found out that her mom was the lady from Psycho, and so you have this notoriety, this a higher pedigree. She comes from a pedigree of scream queens, and now she's the ultimate scream queen. Prom Night, she wasn't in Prom Night 2, but she's in a couple other slashers. Some throwaway slashers. Prom Night may be the best one out of the kind of off the cuff slashers, but you've got all this stuff, all these cool things, and she did a good job. You had John Carpenter's wife wrote the script for The Babysitters because, she was a babysitter herself. She wanted to base this script up for the girls off of herself.
It wasn't the original title like The Babysitter Murders or something.
Babysitter Murders. Yeah. And then they're like, let's call it Halloween. So you've got all of that. I think he did a great job with this film. With what he had, and this film set the precedent for some of these other films. You have all these cliches, the promiscuous sex, is going to lead you to death. You've got the lone female that's at the end of every horror film, and you've got just the theme, and this immortality of the bad guy. Of the slasher, whoever the slasher is, they're just immortal. They come back. You can't keep them down. And they always just keep coming back for some reason. You just can never get rid of them. And, that's what this franchise brings to the table. It brought a new standard for your slasher villains, and I think you can't give credit to Freddy, to Jason, to Ghostface without giving credit to Michael Myers and what John Carpenter did. Just his techniques, his suspense in this film, and then all of those elements. You get it from Halloween.
That's fair enough. Where did the origin, like on IMDb page, they don't call him Michael Myers. They refer to it as a shape. But I don't remember. That's not said in the movie, is it? At least I don't remember it. Maybe later on.
No, he's the shape of Michael Myers. Like, it's just the actor. So of course we talked about Castle, who plays the shape. He also became a director and a writer, and he plays the shape. And you had someone else that played the face, his actual face, whenever his mask is pulled off very shortly. Right before Donald Pleasance shoots him and, has him shot over the balcony. He gets like 6 rounds from a .357 Magnum in him and still walks away. But yeah, that's just, just like saying Bodyguard #2 or something like that in the casting. I could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but that's what I gather from it.
Okay. I was wondering where that came from too. But yeah, man, this is a franchise that, it's endured now 40 years. They just rebooted it with a reboot / legacy sequel-ish.
Legacy sequel, yeah.
They did. And, which was very, been very popular. They've done 3 of those in the reboot. And it's a character that, they did something right when they created it. It stood the test of time, still around 40 years later. Several movies, some not so good, some better than others. A couple of sequels that came out after this that we touched on earlier that had absolutely nothing to do with this other than by name. But, like I said, I can appreciate what Carpenter did. It's just not really a movie that I'm going to go to now and then. I find it kind of like, I don't know, just kind of dull. I'm like, it's all right, I guess. But it amazes me that it did that well at the box office. It was able to take off like that. But just right time, I guess.
Yeah, good timing. And of course the backing of some serious critics.
Yeah. Hey.
It is an A. It's an A. It's for even if it's slow, what happened afterwards and what how it contributed to these other films. I think you have to give it at least an A-. At least an A-. Maybe you take a hit for the pacing.
I'll give it an A- for cultural importance. Personal thoughts on it, I give it like a B. Okay. I think it's an overhyped fair. B movie. I think that's where I would rank it. So.
It is definitely a B movie type thing, and even the headlines from that time said a true grade B movie horror. That doesn't disappoint. I think that was the title. So you're right on with the B movie horror.
Yeah, that's good. It's cool. We finally got around to doing it. It almost feels like. We do Halloween horrors, and it feels like Halloween's the namesake, but it's not the end of Halloween horrors. We will be back next year with more Halloween movies.
That's right.
Sure.
And we'll have to touch on another one of these icons, man. We've done Pinhead, we've done Jason, we've done Freddy, we've done Michael. We haven't done Leatherface or Chucky, or Ghostface. So we got to do one of those definitely.
We'll see.
Maybe we'll ask winner. Yeah.
Cool, man. I just sent you a text a minute ago. I don't know if you saw it. Do you have a ghost story this week, man? Because I failed.
I sure do.
I failed to forget one. As we started a few years ago, a tradition. Was it, man? I feel like Winter was part of that tradition, starting the ghost story thing. Maybe I'm wrong in that, but
you know what? I think there's something there to that. Yeah, I think maybe she had mentioned something.
She did one of the Nightmare on Elm Street episodes. I know that, and So we started a tradition where we do ghost stories during Halloween Horrors Month, and I had one last week, and I just remembered, like, while we're doing it, like, fuck, I forgot one. But I'm glad you got one, Matt. So let's have this ghost story before we get into the pop culture news of the week.
And so I witnessed a haunted landmark on my fishing trip just a few days ago. So I'll preface with, I had an off day. My uncle invited me out to the this beach house that he had rented on the Bolivar Peninsula, about 2 hours away. And it's good fishing, caught some good fish, but we had to go get some bait. And, I went with his friend so he could kind of navigate me, because there's a back road you kind of have to take. Well, you come up, the road that you take, you come up to this old lighthouse, and it's black, it's dark. It's obviously run down. It doesn't work anymore. And he points over there and he says, "Hey, there's the Bolivar Lighthouse." And he's like, you know about the Bolivar Lighthouse? And I was like, "No, don't know about the Bolivar Lighthouse." He's like, "Well, it stood the test of time. It's still up there, and it was ravaged by the Great Hurricane of 1900. A lot of people know that as the one that caused Galveston to erect a seawall, and a lot of people know about the Great Storm in 1900. Erect. But he's like, there were some people that survived in there. They held up. And so I was like, you know what? I wonder if it's haunted. He's like, well, probably could be. I said, you know what? There's a lot of these nautical lighthouses that are haunted. I'm going to do some research. Sure enough, before the new owners bought it and closed it down, the previous owners, they would have people come in and visit. They said that they would witness supernatural occurrences, voices, hearing screams. Some people even claim to see the lighthouse turn on a few times. But apparently, because those people in the area that were trying to wait out the storm, the legend goes that people died around the lighthouse trying to also get in and try and seek shelter, because it's made out of copper. It was made out of solid copper, so obviously pretty strong. And people died because they just didn't have the shelter to protect themselves around the lighthouse. And so legend has it that tower is haunted by the ghosts of people that died around the lighthouse. There's it's local legend. It's obviously since been closed, and it's not open to the public anymore unless you make it open to yourself. There was another lighthouse before it, and it was there during the Civil War era, and that one was claimed to be haunted as well. But that one's since been torn down, and so it's not even there. But it was really cool. It was you just passing by this thing, and I'm like, oh. It's like a local landmark, I wonder if there's some backstory to it, and found out that there was. So I was like, man, I wish I would have been able to go inside and check it out. But obviously we had other stuff to do that day, but maybe another time.
Yeah, I knew about I had heard that story before. It's interesting. Galveston has a few places like that, like the Galvez Hotel is believed to be haunted.
I always hear about that one.
There's also the face on the side of the building, one of the UT campus buildings. There's a face that they've tried to power wash. I've actually seen that one before. They've power washed, they've done all kinds of things, and the face will disappear and then it'll come back within a few days. And they believe it's a face of someone who's haunting the building. So Galveston, Galveston's creepy.
It is, man. It's it's been there for a while, so there's a lot of dead people that have been over there. Those cemeteries, when you pass by them, they're creepy as hell, man. They look like they're out of a horror movie.
Yeah. Cool. Good shit, man. Well, that's cool, man. I hope people enjoyed Halloween Horrors this month, even if a shortened version. It was fun to do those 3 movies. And but yeah. And as you're listening to this podcast, walking around on Monday, trick or treating or whatever, just be safe, of course. And
Check your candy.
And regardless of what people say, you don't have to check all your candy. Do you realize since the whole candy thing
check your candy.
Well, the whole candy thing originated from Texas. You know that there was a guy in Texas that was apparently put a couple razor blades in some candy, and it started this whole thing. But since then, there's only been if you go look it up, there's only been less than 20 confirmed reports of anyone messing with candy over the last 30 years or so.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really happen that often, but people say it does. But let's do some news before we get out of here. We're going to go back to Henry Cavill. This was announced today. He's going to step down from playing Geralt in The Witcher after the third season. And you can't help but think this has to do with him coming back to the DCU. I would imagine it does. I mean, once he re-signed that deal to play Superman, I would imagine that The Witcher's out for now. And Liam Hemsworth is going to replace him. Interesting choice, I guess. So Witcher fans, you'll have to deal with a new Geralt after season 3. I think season 3 is coming out pretty soonish. I would December, January.
So. They could have at least replaced him with Chris Hemsworth. I could see Chris Hemsworth doing it. Liam, I can't. He's it's bland, man. I just you have to replace Cavill. It's not going to be easy already.
Oh shit. Actually, you muted your mic. Unmute yourself. I didn't mean to do it. Whoops, I was hitting the button.
At least pick someone that's an A-lister.
Yeah. So we got a trailer this week for Ant-Man and Wasp: Quantumania. The Ant-Man movies they're probably some of my least favorite of the Marvel movies. They're okay. But this one looks like high stakes finally in the Ant-Man film. It looks like it really could get us going into Phase 5. It is the official first movie of Phase 5 from what I read, because Phase 4 ends with Wakanda Forever. So we get Kang in this movie, and it looks like he's going to be there to fuck some shit up and cause Ant-Man and Wasp lots of havoc. This is the first time I've actually kind of been excited for an Ant-Man film. I didn't even see Ant-Man and Wasp in theaters. That's one of the few MCU movies I did not see in the theaters because I just wasn't excited about it. But this one looks pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it looks like they're finally going to have a movie that's really going to drive the story forward and have like higher purpose within the MCU versus rather than just having like a small little quip. Or, just introducing the character, because I feel like that's all we've gotten. The first movie, it's just an introduction. You have a villain that's interested in power and money, like usual. And then in the second film, you just have some little quips that just move. Maybe some little tidbits about him, like he can enlarge himself, or the Ghost. Introducing Ghost, and then introducing the quantum realm and them finding the mother in the quantum realm. That's really, really kind of all you get from the second one. So the third one, being this official kickoff to Phase 5 is really cool.
All right. We also, it looks like we're going to be getting a Vision series from Marvel. This seems like one of those things that kept secret, but Paul Bettany seems to have signed on to do a sort of sequel to WandaVision starring the Vision. That's kind of cool, I think, because I haven't really loved any of the Marvel series so far. I thought all of them are okay, but I do like Paul Bettany in that role. So I think it'll be fun to see more of him and see what happens since he turned into the White Vision during WandaVision, and bring him back around. So it looks like
and got all his memories back.
Yeah. So that's cool. And we're going to stick kind of in Marvel-ish a little bit. James Gunn is finishing up Guardians of the Galaxy 3. He's staying on with Marvel Studios to do the promotions for the holiday special and for promoting Guardians 3 next year. And he's going to be taking over as one of the heads at DC, and they're going to rename it from the DC Extended Universe to simply the DC Universe, and move forward with him in the role that kind of Kevin Feige forms at Marvel, and to help DC continue their new direction. And I think this is certainly good news. I might have not loved the Suicide Squad, but I do like James Gunn, what he does, and I think he's the right man for the job to do this, to help DC continue to move forward.
I think he definitely has something to offer them.
Yeah, And that said, the trailer for this Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special also hit this week, and that looks like a hell of a lot of fun. I was really laughing at the whole they're going to try to capture Kevin Bacon. I thought that was hilarious. A nice throwback to Guardians of the Galaxy 1 where Star-Lord mentions Kevin Bacon. So that looks like a blast to watch. So that should be a lot of fun. And but it's good, man. DC needs a direction with this as we move forward. The Rock is trying his damnedest to bring DC stuff to people. He got Cavill to come back, and Black Adam was a lot of fun to watch. So this is definitely good news because and I love how they're saying we're not trying to compete with Marvel anymore. We're just trying to bring two universes to people to enjoy. And I think that's the right move to take. I think Zack Snyder and some of their people before were trying too hard to catch up to Marvel and trying to compete. And you don't need to do that. Just make two universes that people can enjoy in the theater. So I think it's certainly good news. But with that good news, a little bit of negative news. They fired the showrunners for the Green Lantern TV series, but at least Warner Brothers Discovery did not cancel it. They're just bringing a new showrunner. They're going to start from scratch. So we're still going to get a Green Lantern TV series. It just might be pushed back a little bit. So, but this feels like all part of the process. For a few weeks there, every week there was some negative news coming out of Warner Bros. Discovery with all the HBO stuff and the Batgirl cancellations. But now it feels like we're starting to see why. Like they realize they're trying to right the ship with things and get in the right direction. So I'm going to take all this as good news now, and hopefully they right the ship and we get some good DC product.
That would be
Matt. Man, don't drink water when you go see The Way of Water. It's 3 hours and 10 minutes.
Really?
I read that. I was like, holy shit! I might be seeing this by myself because I don't think the kids will sit through that.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And, I'm old, man. I can't even make it through a 3 hour, 10 minute. Even if I don't drink water, I'm going to have to go piss in 3 hours,
Yeah, Diet Coke and, I drink diet soda now and I at least have to go once, on a regular movie.
Yeah, exactly. So, and is something attacking you over there?
I had a little cramp. Yep.
Oh, I
had to straighten out my leg.
Like, you all of a sudden started shaking on the camera. I was like, what is something attacking Matt?
Yeah.
But yeah, man. So Avatar, The Way of Water, 3 hours and 10 minutes, people, prepare thyself.
Wow.
That's all the news I got this week. Let's preview next week's film before we get out of here. A movie that I like quite a bit. Have you ever seen this, Matt? Or is this going to be a first time view for you?
This is going to be a first time, man. I know of it. I just never saw it.
You have never seen then The Last Starfighter.
Come on, Alex, they're here!
Alex Rogan had a dream.
You really are leaving here, aren't you?
To be as far away from here as possible.
You get your chance. When it comes, you gotta grab it with both hands.
It started with a game.
You gonna bust the record.
But it wasn't just any game.
You have been recruited by the Star League to defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
And then, one night...
Centauri's the name. We have to talk about a matter of utmost importance. Step into my office. I've seen him come and I've seen him go, but you're the best, my boy. Light years ahead of the competition.
Hey.
Alex didn't find his dream.
Hey, look out! Oh, dear.
His dream found him.
Where are we? Welcome to Rylos, my boy.
A world on the brink of destruction.
You were recruited by the Star League to
defend the frontier against Zur and the Kodan Armada.
Of all the life forms, on all the planets, in all the galaxies.
Oh my God!
One has been chosen. Alex Rogan.
Alex?
I'm Max.
Is the last starfighter. For every Earthling who's ever imagined traveling beyond the stars.
Maybe there is a starfighter left.
I love you, Alex Rogan.
Comes the unforgettable story of one who made it. The last starfighter.
I enjoy this movie. It might be another one of those movies that I'll take for granted that it's a nostalgic thing for me, but I really enjoy the film. I think it's a lot of fun. I think you'll watch it and you'll understand where Ernest Cline's appreciation for it comes from and his ideas for Ready Player One and things like that. This is one of those movies that he liked a lot, and so I think you'll see the influence The Last Starfighter has had on some modern things, and I think you'll appreciate that. And I hope you enjoy the movie too, because I think it's legitimately a fun, good little science fiction movie.
I think I'll enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's a fun movie, and you told me an interesting factoid before we started the show that I didn't know about. That the guy who played the Shape in Halloween, the stand-in, like you said, stunt double, was directed The Last Starfighter. I didn't even know that until
yes, sir.
I told you for the show. So that's an interesting little thing. But so next week, as we roll, man, I'm telling you, we've got some epic stuff come up in November, December to finish out the year. Some really epic films. The movie we just talked about being 3 hours and 10 minutes, where Avatar, the original, we'll be doing that sometime next couple of months, and a lot of other good stuff as we get closer to the end of the year. So, but this is the Rebel Radio Podcast, the rebelradiopodcast.com. It's where our official website. You can find us on all apps, iHeartRadio, Spotify, iTunes, all that good stuff. And we thank you as always for listening, and we thank you for enjoying Halloween Horrors Month. And until next week, this has been Mark.
This has been Matt.
Remember, as always, just go there and
do it.